horse drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Fensler in the morning continued to drift. He was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Well, hello. It's that time of week again. Yes, where we talk absolute nonsense. It's Sunday sermon time. And joining me for around an hour's worth of total waffle are my usual two partners in crime after the appearance of Catherine Fry. Last week, you've now back to the two pieces of rabble that sit along with another piece of rabble sat right here. It's John and Chris. Good afternoon, John Lang and Lorne Malver.
Hello.
I prefer to think of this as pertinent racing chat rather than...
It's reversion to the mean is what it is. Since Fry's gone, reversion to the mean.
Yeah, not sure some people on Twitter would agree with that, but...
Why? What's that about?
Well, we get called all sorts. Twitter terrorists.
Who says this? I must miss all this.
Well,
They love us. We're universally loved, surely. No? I assume everybody thinks we're great. Now you're telling me they don't. What's going on here? Ridiculous.
I'm afraid not.
Okay, fair enough.
We'll come to bits of that later on.
Please.
We've got plenty to talk about this week. We're going to start off, as always, by discussing the weekend's action. There wasn't a lot to go at.
I'll go for a shit now, actually. Let me know when you're done. I'm going to go for a dump.
That's making some piss.
There wasn't a lot to go at over the weekend, but what I thought I'd do is I'd highlight a few things that I like going forwards and why. Two of them did run at the weekend. I fancy the two horses I'm going to mention now for their targets this spring. And the first, John, being the more obvious one, I thought it was a brilliant Grand National trial from Iroka around a track too sharp. He wasn't given a hard time. I think 14-1 for the National is very fair. He's not been off. And I think it could be a big spring for JP McManus in certain races to come this spring.
He's got a lot of fancy horses at Cheltenham, and that one certainly didn't do any damage to its Liverpool chances yesterday. As you say, it was a nice little paddle round against a horse you wouldn't have expected it to beat at its best. Didn't do anything wrong. Showed he's in good order. I think it's safe to assume he's going there on a good mark. I think the biggest issue will be the extreme stamina test. Other than that, he's going to be there crossing Anchor Bridge, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he'll get it well. The way he came home up that running at Kelso, I like his attitude, and I certainly think he'll stay. So I think 14-1 appeals to me. I think 152 is very handy for the Nash. I know JP's got a few in there. I am Maximus, last year's winner.
There's a Gavin Cromwell one as well, isn't there? I forget the name of it.
Yeah, I ain't got the race in front of me, but I felt he broke at 14-1. I thought that's very fair for the Nash. The second one was a name I like very much, and it's called No Flies on Him. That ran at Nevison on Saturday. It was weak in the market, 9-4 out to 3-1, and I don't think it was off.
Right.
That's all. Very little effort, 4 out. Jumped okay. I watched Mark Walsh at the tapes when they set off. He set off stone bonking last, and then he made ground into the midfield.
Yeah.
Jumped quite well, jumped to the left. But there was no effort from the saddle. He's got a very nice mark in the Golden Miller. I think it's 134, 136, one of them.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's been laid out for. He wasn't there to win. And I think the better ground will suit. And the 20-1 generally available, especially with firms that are going non-run and no bet, I think it's a fantastic price.
Yeah.
I just think this has been well prepped, really, really well prepped. And to me, that was most eye-catching. The other one, and again, it's more obvious, but it didn't run at the weekend, but obviously preparing for our preview pod, by the way, which our Cheltenham preview show goes out to Patreon members next Monday, and then to regular listeners on the Tuesday. Me and John are going to be joined by Michael Puncheon, Catherine Fry, and Andy Richmond. So it's the full battalion out for the preview show. Anyway, I was doing prep work with that, and Kopek Demi, I watched his France run, and I couldn't believe what I saw. They've given him 136, which is absolutely scandalous. He beat one that finished second in France that beat one of Willie's that Willie currently trains, Kitzbühel. And that's rated, I think, 152. So Kitzbühel's now 152. He's 136, and he beat the one that beat Kitzbühel in France.
Right.
And Mullins trained that. Listened to Ruby Walsh the other day on either a podcast or an interview. It sounded like they were embarrassed at the mark. I can tell you now, having watched it, he's gun barrel straight. There's no vices. He's not a Gaelic warrior. He's a state man. He gets it done. I think there's an advantage now playing with whoever's not running no bet, back him in all three entries at Cheltenham, because I guarantee you, whichever one they pick, he's going to collapse. I could even see him one of these that's going off 6-4, like a state man, that kind of price. 3 JP horses there for you, and Chris predicted he'd have a good year this year. So there we go. That's where I'm at in terms of JP this spring. 3 nice chances there in some big races. John, anything catch your eye?
No, not especially. I mean, I think that was probably as comprehensive as it needs to be, really, for the weekend.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly happy to rock along with those.
Something for the weekend, sir.
Indeed.
Focusing on the flat after that. We've got cold sweats after talking about Cheltenham for so long. Benjamin's been on, and he said, how excited should we be after watching that performance from Ruling Court yesterday? Very impressive, for sure. Any early Derby shouts as we're all over John's in the Oaks? What have you tipped for the Oaks? Again, remind everybody.
Smoking.
That's the one. I like how you said that.
Smoking.
Yeah. We're not going to release this one on air, but I know what John would like to play in the Derby. Am I right, John?
Yeah, each one else. I'm very, very keen to see how he's done over the winter.
So join us on Patreon, because it's going to lighten up on there in the coming weeks. What with Cheltenham, 5 to follow on the flat coming up. We've got some anti-purse advice for the Derby on there, like from John. This is John. And by the way, John spent about 20 minutes to convince me, and it didn't take much convincing. And this horse is a big price. So it's worth doing, chaps. You're missing out on a lot on there. And it keeps us from being sponsored by the likes of the dirty old corporation bookmakers. It keeps them at bay because you're helping us to remain independent and be your podcast.
And live in unimaginable luxury as well, which is what we live in, don't we? Like some sort of oriental pashas. We're carried aloft by slaves all the way everywhere we go.
Yeah.
Elegant squalor, ourselves.
Elegant squalor, yes.
We have the rose
yes,
petal.
quite right. A living god.
Like Coming to America.
We're like that, aren't we, really? That's what £7 a month buys you, whatever, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's 9 now, inflation.
Oh, 9? Fucking now. We're raping them, eh?
£9. And then if you want the really, really good tips that you get on a daily basis, that's £39 or £49, depending which sort of service you want to go for. But we certainly done the business over time, so I'm proud of our record. And we don't hide our profit and losses like some out there. To get that in.
Like most out there, I would say.
Yeah, you know what to do. Right, let's have some racing question from you all. Get some. Yesterday evening was the big gamble, which I'm going to give a little bit of credit out to Simon Knott yesterday afternoon. If I had been asleep, I'd have been all over it. It was Shark Hanlon's. It isn't Shark Hanlon training it, but
no, of course not. No, definitely not. Nothing to do with him.
Yeah, legally, I want to get that right. It was Miss Tara Colgan, or whatever they call her.
Yeah,
she was looking after the yard while the Shark was in Dubai and other places. Anyway, there was a massive plunge, 12 to 1 into about 6 to 4. And Simon Knott reported it in the afternoon at Newbury Racecourse. Yeah. There was some wide boys going round asking for 4 to 1 this horse during the afternoon, and no one wanted to know. Shutters are down.
Gosh.
Anyway, what do we make of that gamble at Southwell that was landed? Some people moan at gambles, don't they? Because they say, I suppose we don't want one every race, do we? But
well, we do if we're in on them. If we're in on them, you see, that's the dilemma, isn't it? You know, when you're on the outside, it's outrageous, bad for the sport. But if someone sort of rang you out in the morning and said you need to have a lumpy double these two or whatever, you keep your mouth shut and get on with it. I mean, listen, you don't want it every race. You don't even want it every day, really. But I think we're too long in the tooth now to moan about it. I mean, it's just part and parcel of the game now, isn't it? And I think it's getting worse.
To be fair, and this sounds like really disgusting from me in terms of trumpet blowing, I didn't back it, but
Yeah.
when I look back at it, I think on its second to last run, handicapping run, it
Yeah.
had got a Racing Post rating of sort of 69, and it was off 55.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And then obviously it's had 2 float-ups or whatever.
Clues in the form book.
It's one of them that if I'd have noticed, or if I'd have been tuned into Simon, not what he was tweeting that afternoon,
Yeah.
it'd have made me look at it and I'd have gone, do you know what? I'm going to back that.
Yeah.
Because you don't get idiots wandering around race courses Saturday afternoon trying to back a shady one at Southall at night. I'd have followed them in there. It was findable if you did want to follow them. John, thoughts on it? Did you see all that shenanigans?
I sat here watching the horror unfold and didn't do a damn thing about it. And I mean, pretty stupid, really, not jumping on, because when you say previous SPs of 66, 250, 150, 50, and 100, and then 5 to 4,000, you need to be pretty dense not to know what's happening there, don't you?
Yeah. Another thing that ruined me yesterday is I watched Gladiators for the first time in about 20 years.
How's Wolf going?
I know it's all changed now. They've got all different. I actually didn't mind it for a bit. Anyway, I couldn't watch every week.
What's wrong with you?
No, I know.
Awful stuff.
There's something in the air. I agree. People are doing strange things. I mean, for example, look at John's question thread today. It was littered with people having little spats and
fighting,
niggles,
squabbling
at each other, squabbling. That's the word.
Yes.
And the main cause, it's over Johnny Deneen and the podcast that.
What's that about? Unpack that for us. I don't understand what.
All he did was name one of Willie Mullins' horses for every letter of the alphabet.
Yeah,
and it fucking erupted.
Yeah, I think people say they use a teleprompter or something. But anyway, whatever. I ain't got time to watch many other podcasts or listen to them because a working week for me is just 3.5 hours. Well, I've said this before about Johnny. I think he's a good. There must be a reason that they want Johnny Deneen to appear on the most review panels. He must be on every one.
He's getting a fucking shape more invites than us, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's on a fixed fee, I'm sure.
Yeah, and fair play. People clearly like him. Because you wouldn't get that many invites. You'd be like us. I don't know what the big fuss or furor for Rory was. I know Sam the Cat, he likes to keep the pundits and people that have opinions on racing on the TV in check by calling them out when they're not at their best and stuff like that. And fair play, look, that's what the face of the sport, isn't it? The pundits on TV, the people that do the opening show. I see that Nevison the other night did a Spaces with Icy.
Yeah, there was a Nevison thing, yeah. Nevison sort of now he's champagne socialist, isn't he? Now he's sort of changed his viewpoint. He's very lefty now, apparently.
I'm not a fan of his comments on regarding when he says that punters or criticise pundits on TV, they're envious or jealous. Really? Really?
He doesn't pay to go into the races, so his opinion doesn't matter. He doesn't pay. He's anti-capitalist, isn't he now? But he wasn't an anti-capitalist when he was a city trader, was he? Making dough out of that. So, I mean, they make me smile.
I'm very forgiving for that, Chris. I think anybody can say the error of the ways, and I'll happily welcome them back into the fold.
The thing with Nevison, he does stretch the truth a little bit, though, because he said he was a roaring success for Winning Line when he ran the Winning Line account.
No.
He was getting fortunes to tip. Well, if that's the case, why was I brought in to clean his mess up? Yeah. I ran it for 2 years after he... The Winning Line were going in a different path anyway because the internet had just started. Yeah. The paper advertising the Racing Post wasn't as effective anymore. Right. Like when they used to put a big one-page ad in the Racing Post, they'd get like 50 customers from £1,000 a year. They were that good. But once the internet came, the effectiveness of the Racing Post wore off. So they went down a different direction. And that's why the Winning Line service ended, really, because the Grey Pound wasn't supporting it as much, if you know what I mean. The game changed. Yeah. It was all betting exchange. Ooh, betting exchange. Ooh, what's this? And that's why they went a different direction. And I was there for about 6 years working for them. It didn't end well with Nevison, so I don't know why he brags about that. You crap. Yeah. So there you go. I'm just telling the truth, facts. That's what we do on this show. So I don't know why Nevison's blown his own on in that particular sense, anyway.
That's it. We could with Eldo, that. I meant physically.
Yes, yeah. It's a long time ago. Well, I'm just trying to think when that was. It was, I'm going to say about 02, 03, something like that, maybe. We're talking 23 years ago. Yeah. Long time ago. Things have changed. Yeah. An interesting one from Huge Brampton Files.
Yes.
It's a follow-up question from his original, but I'm more interested in this question because I like it better. He makes a point about open-aged handicaps in national hunt racing, John.
Probably one of my favourite subjects.
All right, we can actually stretch this at flat. Why is 0 to 105? Why don't we have an open-aged handicap?
Actually, I mean, I was being a bit facetious there. I totally agree with his point. And I mean, I can remember back to the era that he was talking about when you used to get like Red Rum running at Carlisle carrying 12-7.
Yeah.
Things like that, you know. I mean, Neville Trump was a great one for running like what you'd class as grade 2 chasers now under whacking great weights at like Hexham and Wetherby and places like that, you know.
Trainers like, I think he means Arthur Stevenson, people like that,
Yeah.
used to run top-class horses in these races, and you get 3 or 4 out of handicap having to take him on, and Blazing Walker going back in the day, I think. I agree. I think they should have a look at that, because particularly for national hunt racing, because how many times do you hear trainers when they say there's nothing, can't run in anything? And I think that's what, if you just make them open instead of pissing about, why have 0 to 130 or 0 to 145? If you're at that level where it's like 0 to 145, you may as well go open, haven't you?
Totally.
And then them that's prepping for a national or whatever can have a pot round in that, and you can lay it.
Exactly.
We like that, Huge. Andy McGay's been on timing of Shark getting his licence back for Cheltenham. Well, Andy, we just talked about the Shark, and of course he did it in style on Saturday night. He's paid for his time off and his stint in Dubai, and he's obviously going to be rip-roaring at Big Fez meet.
He's got his money for the Centaur, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Drop a bit in Derek Thompson's bucket.
Yes, quite.
Ice Cold Cube been on. With the Fez coming up very soon, yes, we fucking know ITV cheerleaders, etc. Do any of you lads or listeners know if on course there will be loud tinny music played over the tannoy and badly dressed posho media types doing live pointless commentary?
Well, there will be, won't there?
Just going back to that, did you watch the ITV coverage yesterday?
Bits and pieces of it. I kept dipping in and out.
What did you make of it?
It's not really varying much now. It is what it is, you know. I mean, they're not catering for us, but I think it's pretty much doing the job that they want it to do.
Well, if it was catering for us, it would be presented by the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, wouldn't it, really? So I suspect we're a pretty niche audience, aren't we?
Yeah, indeed. That's where we stand on that. You know what's coming at Ice Cold Cube, so we can't really answer
The opening show was interesting yesterday. They did that in front of a live studio audience for a change. And,
somebody mentioned about that.
It was like there'd been an explosion at Cocoon. and we'd all got out.
Was it like Question Time audience?
Slightly less animated.
Right, Rap Podcast has been on. That's Pete Butler. He has a lot of good thoughts, unlike us on racing.
Yeah.
What? Sorry?
Rap Podcast. It's Pete Butler. We've met him at York, John.
Oh, right, sure.
He's a good guy.
Yeah. You probably don't remember. But you know. He likes you, though, and he likes Chris.
Terrible judge.
Would even middling stakes punters be better off on the black market? If you're restricted to under a £5 a day deposits, i.e. tedious and intrusive affordability checks, are you just better off playing with something that is licensed in a foreign domain? And by the way, people going about black markets as being illegal. They're only illegal if they take money from a UK customer. So say if you have a Curacao license and you lay UK customers' bets, like because they're using a VPN, that of course is not legal. But there's nothing illegal about them setting a black market book up, so to speak. And I think that's where we're at in terms of punters will be looking for outs now, since of course, the Gambling Commission, Herr Andrew John Rhodes, has decided that £150 a month is the maximum that you'll be allowed to play before an invasive, they say frictionless, which is the biggest load of bollocks you'll ever hear in your life, affordability check is allowed to take place by the foxes in charge of the hen houses. So what's our feelings on that, chaps? Black market, is this where we're at now? Is that where we've got to go?
Yeah.
Well, it is if you're going to have a problem with your deposits. And I would venture to suggest that would include pretty much everyone listening to this podcast, because I would assume that they're not the type of players that limit their play to £150 a month.
No.
And the thing is, finding a black market or under-the-counter bookmaker who's going to pay out.
Do you get permission off your news agents to buy the Racing Post at £5 every day for a month? Does he afford
Well, you ought to, really. You'd want your head testing to buy that, wouldn't you? But you're right, £150 a month, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
you're
Can
out
you
buy a
there, aren't you?
newspaper?
You know, I mean, if you can only afford 150 a month, you can get the paper. And you're supposed to be booked for having a bet.
So following on from that question, Tony Harding has been on to follow up Pete's question about black markets, etc., and are we better off there? Do you think or know whether any offshoots from mainstream bookies are running black market books? Anyone check the source code of a black market bookie's website? I've had a brief look into this, Tony, and from an information point of view, I definitely know they are doing it, including some regular sort of, not mainstream books, but smaller books, if you like, that they're doing it. I'm sorry, it's where we're at. That's what they're going to do. And the problem is, though, if you're betting with black market books, they'll misbehave in exactly the same way as they do when you're betting here, but you've no legal recourse. At least over here, you have got some kind of legal redress if they keep your money. You've got none whatsoever if they are using a license from elsewhere.
If they just decide not to pay, you're done, aren't you?
Yeah. If anyone of very, very rich standards listens to this podcast, I'm going to give you an idea now. Set up a Curacao betting exchange for horse racing and sports betting. Charge a decent commission of, say, 4% for exchange players, so you're on the right side of making money. Don't rip them off and just pay out. None of this bollocks about holding your money in this shit. The first company to do that and not rip punters off will make a fortune. What's pissing me off about bookmakers and their behaviour is that they can't help themselves. So say if, I don't know, someone's won 25,000 on the exchanges over, say, a week or so, they'll find it too tempting to keep that money for themselves and just rip you off and void your bets or do whatever. That's their mistake. If they were legit and just said, right, we pay everybody out, no one gets ripped off here, everyone gets paid, no questions, that's it. The first one to do that on the black market gets everybody's custom within months. And I mean everybody's. The exchange would take off massively. The geolocation is turned off, isn't it? Americans can play. Britons can play. We can all play. And the markets are massive. What's happening in America, like poly markets and things like that over there, like big money matching websites. You can compete. And all of a sudden then we've got a thriving betting exchange full of sports and horse racing punters that are basically getting on and are happy as Larry. What is not to like? No invasive checks. And the first company to do that, honestly, will be a massive winner. A massive, massive winner, because reputation is everything. And sadly, they misbehave. And that's the problem at the moment. You can stick on that topic, actually, because we talked about the opening show a bit ago, didn't we, on affordability checks? There were no mention, John, on the opening show, was there, on that Cocoon panel?
No.
Why wasn't there, do you think?
Here we are again. We're discussing the affordability checks for like the first time since the infamous Matt Zab cousin appearance on Look on Sunday, because we weren't recording last week. And I think we should possibly address some of the points raised from that as well at this juncture. I mean, since that show, we've had pelters over who we're aligning ourselves with, mainly due to Zab's answer to one of Nick Luke's final questions, to whether he was pleased greyhound racing in Wales, where they have one track, was going to be banned. Now, of course, he answered in the affirmative. Apparently, that confirmed to everyone that he was a wrong un, and he was taking us for mugs. Why bother taking us for mugs wasn't made clear, of course, because away. I mean, we're nothing. We're not putting any money up. We're not taking any money out. So who are we? We're not worth taking for mugs.
Correct.
Now, Zab's supplemental answers certainly showed a lack of familiarity with both ground and horse racing. There's no getting away from that. But like in a similar vein, I personally wish the CIA would take out Elon Musk. Right? Now, I have a mate who profoundly disagrees with me. Right? However, neither of us like Joe Pasquale.
It is.
Are we not allowed to get together and eliminate the Joe Pasquale threat because we differ over Elon Musk?
Yes, I dislike Bo Pasquale as well. I'm with you on that. Yeah,
it's such a good point.
That Matt Zab Barstewards affordability checks in a nutshell. If you don't get that, we can't explain it any further. We've got
But
more chance to get the
no.
Cocker Spaniel to read the fucking news.
Well, you see, John, following on from what you said, today's Luck on Sunday, we had a character called Don Matcham, who is the CEO of something called
Yeah.
Invade, which seems to be a Matcham is, just do a bit of digging, he's the sole director of a company called, and this is, I'm not making this up, Give Me Dough Limited, right? And this character, this public school wanker, that people in racing seem to gravitate towards, these kind of characters. He's the savior of racing, right? More young people in, rave music, blah 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 blah, to get the young people in. But behind all that is actually fundamentally a company that provides labour on 0 hours contracts to mass events, so bar staff, restaurant staff, etc. And yet this twat is given a platform on Nick on Sunday without any due diligence being done on him, because he's posh, because he speaks well, and he looks good. And we're trying to push forward. I mean, all right, we've got faces for radio, but the fact is that they had reluctantly had Zarb on, right? And we get loads of pelters, and yet cunts like this get airtime without little or no feedback. And that's what irritates me about the sport, how easily people in racing are taken in by these spoofs.
Lee had never ever claimed in anything he's put on Twitter that Zab was an expert in either area, ground or horse.
He's not. He's not an expert in either, and he'll admit that. He'll admit that.
The only claim Lee made was that he can open doors for people who need to see people, and thus far that is what's happened. But it won't happen overnight, and there's certain parts of what's going on we cannot make public at the moment. And it certainly won't happen in the form of performative nonsense to prove people wrong, because we don't have to prove them wrong. It'd be better if we managed to convince Racing Twitter that it's a good way to get shot of affordability checks. But Racing Twitter won't eventually mark our exam paper. But of course, the people that are perceived as the good guys, the bookies, And we had James Knight this week in conversation with Vaughan Lewis, the other fellow who was being critical this week, and they showed exactly where they're at. James Knight said, and I'll quote this directly, "I speak as someone who loves racing and racing betting, but I genuinely think these people have no idea where racing sits in the betting landscape these days. One of the few things racing has in its favour now as a betting product for operators is that players will go on to bet on other stuff. And if that's not saying they're giving people a steer away from racing, what is?"
Exactly. He shot himself in the foot by admitting that. By the same token, just to quote, when people have said, how can we get behind a plan when you won't release the plan? Well, again, this is what happened last week. Vaughan Lewis, and it doesn't say it on his bio, but you have to do a bit of due diligence when people are attacking you. And he's actually profit strategist for Evoke, which is obviously William Hill 888. He's senior management. When you know that that senior management can be asked to talk to you, they're worried, because otherwise, what's the point?
And he said in that same conversation, Lee, horse racing where dog racing was about 20 years ago, and the anti-groups want them all banned. Well-intentioned, but ill-conceived. It's largely noise, though, and doesn't stand up to even basic scrutiny. How the hell can that have any scrutiny when we haven't even released it?
Yeah, precisely.
There isn't one sport that the anti-group have managed to ever get banned. Not one.
No.
They came for boxing. That didn't happen. They came for horse racing. That hasn't happened. They came for ground racing. It wasn't them that got it banned. Politicians did. The point is, they can speak as much as they like. It's down to politicians at the end of the day. And it's up to us to make sure that racing doesn't get banned. We've a backstop in this plan to make sure that doesn't happen. You don't know what it is. I know what it is. That's why it's staying under wraps. Because
correct.
Why the hell do I want Vaughan Lewis, who is a profit strategist at Big Corp, to know exactly what we're up to and exactly what we're going to do? Then you've got no cards. You don't show your poker hand before you've bet. That's the whole point of it.
We are trying to do something to benefit this game. Big Corp bookmakers have led the BHA merrily down the garden path by the hand since the gross profits tax agreement. And that's the top and bottom of it.
They want the affordability checks in. You can see it from the BGC conference. They're welcoming them. They want them in. Why? Because they can strategically use them to appease the Gambling Commission. Look what we're doing. They're not bothered what punters they're banning.
We don't the winning punters and increase of our profitability.
Sure.
And these people troll on. Yeah, and these people, when their contracts end, they move on. Like Harrington moves, she's become non-executive director at Chester. These people don't care. They're all salaried employees. They'll go wherever the money is. So, they have no interest in the long-term health of the sport. It's just a job, isn't it? That's all they do. If someone said, "Hey, we'll double your salary and go and work somewhere else," they will. So, all their kind of, it's all hollow in my view.
I've even had people say that snide tweets saying, "Oh, but you want to ban ground race." No, I'm putting this on record right now. Mine and Zarb's opinion on this, like the point John made about Pasquale and Elon Musk, we've all got different ideas about life and what we believe in and what we don't. Ground racing brought me into the game big time.
Yeah,
I clocked at Bellevue, Sheffield. I own grounds. I love the game. Absolutely adored it.
Yes. Same here.
I haven't been in it for a long time. I can't comment on the welfare bits because I don't study it. I haven't got my ear to the ground anymore in ground racing. But for me, it was a fantastic sport. The difference between me and Zarb on this is polar ends of the spectrum. However, this is the ability that I think we have over everyone else, not to chuck the dummy out and start, you siding with it. To actually get round the table and think, right, we disagree on that, but we agree on other things. We agree on this, this, and this. And then you get people saying, they'll come for racing, they'll do this, they'll do that.
Yeah, they might do. They might do, but we don't know. We don't know that.
We don't know that for sure. I've built in a backstop to hopefully stop this. And by the way, you can trust this podcast. If my gut starts twitching the wrong way and I've got a bad feeling about things, you'll be first to hear about it on here. As for making a mistake, what mistake can we make? Racing is fucked. Absolutely Donald Duck as it is. And it ain't coming back. Don't even think it will, because it won't. This is the only thing on the table. And when people say, oh, what about sports betting? Surely you can have sport. Yes, I don't want affordability checks on anything. Nothing.
No.
People should be able to spend their money on what they want, right? Whether that's sports, casino, anything. But what's on the table is this. I've been presented with an opportunity because by people that can open doors. With no disrespect to some of you that are very critical of me on Twitter at the moment, I can take it, big boy. But listen, you aren't opening doors. You're just shouting at me. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your energy and breath. You may as well just save it for your own projects or whatever you do in your own life. Believe me, you're not going to unearth me. You're not going to steer me in a different direction. For now, I am fully on board with this and I want it to succeed. And I will do my damnedest to help them achieve what they need to do. Bearing in mind that James Noyes and Zarb have done a lot of things behind the scenes politically that none of us can ever dream of. We can't get to see people that matter, no matter how much we shout into blogs and pods and everything else. We've done it for years. We were writing about this 4 years ago, for God's sake. We're not behind the door on it. We're just seeing this as a last go at the revolver before racing gets its arse kicked by a big corp. They're the real enemy. It's not the harm groups. If they hadn't rinsed gamblers years ago, we wouldn't be here now. If they hadn't rinsed slot players like they did badly, sending them double deposit bonuses, right, deposit $4,000 after they've self-excluded and things like that, all bad practices like that, we wouldn't have a gambling commission and harm groups queuing up to bash the industry. And that's why we're here. So do not let Big Corp or any other bookmaker that starts slagging us off over grounds and what Zarb's belief is on that, over what they've done to people over time. They're the real crux in this. And it's time it stops, and it's time we change the tables. So if you want to carry on having a go, you are achieving absolutely fucking zero. I'm coming to some of John's questions now before moving on. Lesbian Eskimos, John.
I had 14 characters left and didn't know what to do with it.
That's when you've not got a blue tick. Lesbian Eskimos. No one's put a question on that, so we'll move on.
I think they know what goes on there, don't they?
I think so.
It's like when you lick a lamppost in the freezing weather and your tongue sticks, isn't it?
Mental image. Good God. What am I seeing now? Yeah. The things you do to me on a Sunday are unbelievable. It's the holy day for many. Maybe for lesbian Eskimos as well.
I'm sure it is. We're all in church tonight.
Terrible, this. Racing Post big survey, John. You mentioned about black market vandalism. What's this?
Yeah, well, they're saying it'd be an act of vandalism if they don't tackle the black market problem. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff came out in that survey in the Post. I mean, apparently there's only 20% of the people that were surveyed actually prefer the flat. And you believe that? Jumps won, hands down. Slow horses in bad ground. What a spectacle. I think Jumps fans are more prepared to bang the drum for their sport.
Yeah.
I've seldom met a Jumps fan who hasn't been straight in saying, "Oh, I prefer it to the flat," And I think flat fans are a little bit more laid back about it and don't really give a fuck. The overall winner was people just like racing. When they were asked for a preference, the overwhelming majority said Sticks.
Year was it? You said 6 out of the 14 that ran in the champion bumper. What year was it?
Might have been 22.
And our brown bread.
Yeah.
Fair. Flat racing can be also equally as risky sometimes with injury, but in terms of fatalities, it won't be. It's a worry, this, because you said to me, I don't know if this is public knowledge. Is this public knowledge?
I don't think it is. I mean, I've heard it from a good source.
Starley Studder to release 50 staff. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because we've been talking about Binsero's packed in.
Has he actually stopped?
No, he's training in Dubai.
Okay.
He's just moved from Newmarket. So this is interesting because 2015, Charlie Appleby had 654 runners in a season on the flat. Last season, it was 304.
Last train out of Newmarket, turn off the light.
We've said this as a pod, haven't we? It's like worrying why they're quite big in. I mean, Godolphin now, Australia is like a big operation. I think
the only thing to stop the exodus, Liam, is just sell it to them.
Yeah, if the BHA had any vision, and I'm not on about getting on with bets and affordability, etc., etc.
No.
I'm on about the game surviving to keep the bigger patrons here. How can it be worthwhile for them racing for peanuts they do here compared to racing for in America or Australia or elsewhere? It's just not a business, is it? It's not even close to a business. They're just like adrenaline at racing. But I saw that Andermal McToon interviewing, I think it was in the 90s with Jug Ears, with Wislon.
Yeah.
He even said then, if Britain don't get its act together, he could see himself cutting his numbers and stuff like that. And he were moaning back then. If he were alive to this day, I don't think he'd be bothered at all. Obviously, you've seen big cut down from his daughter.
Yeah.
She's trimmed a bush.
Steady.
Yeah, steady.
This is where I'm at. How do we stop it?
Well,
is it simply to sell it to Saudi?
That's the only possible solution as things stand, and let them have the whole kit and caboodle and the heritage and everything, jockey club race courses, the lot. And then, of course, you'd have to let them show total control over the fixture list and things like that as well. So you'd probably end up with a much trimmed down sport, because your arc courses and things like that, you'd find they'd end up as flapping tracks if they didn't toe the line. But we might end up with a sport in a lot better shape.
No, I'll go with that. Roscoe's been on, changing the subject slightly. Is there any pundit, analyst, not paid directly or indirectly from bookies? Present company excused, obviously.
Yes.
I did have a good think at this. And I tried to find somebody who's somebody, if you know what I mean. And the best one you could probably come up with is probably Lydia. And that's the only reason that she writes for the Sporting Life. The problem is they're owned by Sky Bet. So I don't think Lydia is bookmaker motivated. That's my personal belief. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. She might be very motivated to earn some more cash. But from what I can see, she's promoted Race Share. That's the racehorse ownership group and things like that, which I ain't got a problem with. Like that. To be honest, I ain't got a problem with anyone earning from a bookmaker, but it's just got embarrassing now. It's all bookie blogs. So we're coming on to our competition, John. You've set up a competition. We've actually got 5 mugs to give away.
Ooh.
And by the way, you should cherish these. I know they're quality because mine's still intact.
So is mine.
Yes. Hasn't been thrown across the room in rage, is it? Yeah.
And we didn't buy them cheap ones, them shitty mugs. These are good
Sports
quality
Direct jobs,
And the fact is, we only ever had 30 made, and we're not doing any more reruns. No more reruns. So in years to come, these could be like on
Antiques Roadshow. Antiques Roadshow. Have you thought about value for? Oh no, I've never given it any thought. Yeah, well, it's worth fuck all. Yeah. Sing it in the skip on the way out.
It's a shame
Yeah.
I won't be here to see it. I'd love to see you on a brooch to be looking at my mug on a mug and saying, "Who's this ugly cunt?"
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you can.
So just to add another question for you, tell us, John, what everyone needs to do.
Yeah.
Jeff Lynch said, "Are we now in a world where most, if not all, the trainers, TV celebs, tipsters, even some jockeys are now working for their bookmaker sponsorships, and that's biting the hands of the people that actually feed the sport?" Of course it is, Jeff. Very
Yeah,
true.
totally.
Enter our gravy train competition, Jeff, and get yourself a bit of
Yes.
heritage here. We're talking heritage. This is proper racing heritage. A Barstewards mug.
Meissen china, bone china it is.
Yeah, John, what do they have to do to win one of these?
All you have to do is take a look at the plethora of Cheltenham preview nights coming
Yes.
and direct message me on Twitter telling me which one is going to be the absolute shittiest one with the biggest bunch of grasping grease balls and why.
Yes. Fuck
And
me.
the best
You only win a mug. Fucking hell.
Yeah. Well,
Hey.
the best five will get read out next week's show. So be nice and eloquent. Be as cutting as you want. But we want reasoning. You don't just want, that one at Chelmsford, that's going to be crap. I want to know who's on it and why you think they're all wankers.
Show your workings. Show your workings. That's what we want.
Like in your exams when you wagged
your
school
workings,
and you didn't show any workings, you went at betting shop and you were betting at dinner time. That.
Yes. We need to see your rationale underpinning your argument.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
What a competition that is going to be, by the way, because it simply is. These mugs are invaluable, I can tell you. They're priceless.
You're ramping it right up. Fucking hell. It's got
only
our faces on. That takes the value away. If you
no,
snub
it
the
doesn't.
faces off, you can treble the value.
No, you don't, because then no one knows what we look like. So that's the point. That's why it's valuable. It's like these performers who have helmets on them when they play guitar on stage.
Yeah, the fucking load of helmets we are. We're the three biggest helmets in the game.
And you don't know who they are. That's the intrigue. Anyway.
Yeah, it's good for mystique. Yeah.
We're like the racing equivalent of Kiss, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
Right. Last sort of serious sort of topic. Just want to mention about the shittiness really of Andrew John Rhodes regarding that deal he did with Allwyn on the lottery. Just an update, as obviously Dermot Desmond's company, Camelot, are taking them to court, and there's going to be some legal settlement there, I think, towards Camelot. Just to make it worse, Allwyn promised to double charitable donations from 17.9 billion to 38 billion for the 10-year tenure. That was their argument to get the contract. Apparently, it's going to be 1.6 billion lower just for this year alone in terms of donations. This was a bad deal, and I want to know why this was a bad deal, because it seems like Andrew John Rhodes has done a bad deal for racing. He did a bad deal on the lottery. Is there anything good he's done? Silence. Tumbleweed.
Professional bureaucrat. I mean, bureaucrats don't make good deals, do they? That's the problem. And we've seen that with the BHA. You know, you get people with a public sector background going into bat, trying to negotiate commercial deals with obviously their commercial private sector counterparts, and each and every time they get ironed out because they don't have the skill set. An administrator isn't trained or has in their DNA the ability to do a deal. And this is why the public sector always has crap deals in terms of infrastructure, in terms of equipment. They always get ripped off because they're just not used to that kind of thing. And this is a perfect example of how a public sector official is being completely outmatched. And it happens time and time again.
Yeah, bad times for us all. Next question will come on to WV Horse and Cricket. He says, name your boxing matchups from any persons in history. Not quite sure what sort of this is. What boxing shorts they would wear, what would their boxing name be, and who would win? Obviously, we're not talking about professional boxers here, are we? Like in terms of matchups.
Oh, right. Are we not?
Sure. I was going to put John Conti in with Esther McVeigh, best in Liverpool.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that.
I like a boxing question. Chris, you love your boxing.
Yeah, I like the game, yeah.
Right.
I love boxing, yeah, I do.
Give me
I would have... Go on.
No.
A good matchup. I'd have John the Beast Mugabe, remember him?
Yeah.
In Hagler's era. And I'd have him fighting Alistair Campbell. I'd like to see that. Yeah, that'd be him.
Yeah,
Alistair Campbell, John the Beast Mugabe. Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be my one.
I'll be honest, I don't need any matchups from the past. John's got me watching a fight like repeatedly because he told me a few years ago to watch this. When George Foreman knocked out Jerry Cooney.
Oh, yeah.
I think like Steve Inman on Twitter account could do a really good commentary on this one. It's where George Foreman smashes Cooney, he goes down. It was the biggest mistake of Cooney's life to get back up.
Yes, it was. Yeah, completely. I agree with that. Fucking.
I've seen some proper punches and KOs, but that was an absolute belter.
Horrific, wasn't it?
That's that. So if you haven't watched that one, just cheer yourself up. Maybe message Steve Inman on Twitter that does the voiceover.
Apparently, at the post-fight interview, Jerry Cooney said, I honestly felt he could have knocked me out if he hit me on the big toe.
Yeah, I used to love Foreman. Foreman's comeback in particular, I used to like. I just don't know how he did it.
Yeah, it was like somebody's dad coming into the pub, wasn't it?
Yeah,
such a big man.
You just couldn't knock him out or anything. He just stood there in front of you.
No,
turf for turf.
Have you been watching the Conor Ben Eubank sort of preamble this week? Do you see the thing where he done him with the egg? Did you see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was good though. That was a great bit of publicity, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was fabulous. So that's got a lot of eyes on that fight now because they're both pretty moderate, aren't they?
Yeah,
but that's really ramped up the.
Was ticket sales slow? Do you think?
Do you know what? I think it's a master stroke. You know, whoever conceived that's now got everybody talking about it. I think he's done a great job. Whoever that.
Yeah,
was.
bums on seats. That one, isn't it? 3 questions to go. The producer's been on, and she's very annoyed at this, and she wants John and Chris to answer this.
Yeah.
Why are corned beef tins so difficult to open, and why is it the only tin food that still uses that method to open?
Well, of course, Spam does, doesn't it? I think Spam, or to give it its correct name, luncheon meat, is still accessed via that weedy key. I mean, I think, but she's right. Opening a can of corned beef with that tiny key that has the structural integrity of well-cooked spaghetti is the single most difficult thing to do in the world. You know, even if you're a cardiothoracic surgeon, right, you'd marvel at anybody who has the ability to open a can of corned beef without that key snapping off. Because I agree with it. It is virtually impossible. There's nothing more difficult than opening a can of corned beef with that little key. And I've no idea why they still do it. I really don't.
I bet them tins have caused quite a few A&E visits, haven't they?
Well, after tonight, anybody lacerating their hands on a corned beef tin will not get any sympathy whatsoever. Because I'm going to put you right on this now.
Go on, then.
You need a Tupperware tub with a resealable lid. You need a piece of topside beef that will fit inside the Tupperware.
Right.
You then need a mixture
right.
of 2/3 salt, 1/3 sugar. You absolutely drown the meat in this mixture. You nearly fill the box with it. You put the lid on.
Okay.
You stick it somewhere cold, like a larder or bottom of the fridge, for 4 weeks. You take it out. You wash everything off. You leave it to soak in cold water overnight. And then the next day, you boil it for 2 hours with a selection of veg. That is corned beef. If you use the tin stuff after that, you are fucking mental.
Really? Is that genuine? Is that corned beef?
Beautiful.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Wow. This is why you listen to this show, because John's cooking tips are invaluable. He's given me another top tip last week.
Okay.
John, what's that stuff you gave me?
Oh, the balsamic sun-dried tomato concentrate. It's fantastic in a bolognese.
What's it called?
Oh, no.
Listen, it's called Balazan. Belazu.
Balazan.
And if you're making a spag bol in your tomato puree, put a bit of that in your tomato puree, and it really does enhance the flavour enormous. Well, we brought corned beef up because I had a corned beef pie today, and we do put a bit of tomato puree in that. So we added that, and honestly, the flavour was then doubly enhanced for me. It's one of the best I've had.
Amazing stuff, isn't
it? Yeah. So that, again, cooking top tips. It's better than Nigella, this. Not
really, is it? Not good as Nigella. No, we'd rather have Nigella any day of the week,
Yeah,
to be honest.
same.
Yeah, I mean, even John agrees with that. It's his tip. Yeah.
Yeah. Continuing, 2 questions to go. Luke Tucker, what would the price be of doing a live Sunday sermon from Benidorm? Well, I can already say $1 million because
Yeah.
John don't
He's
fly,
got to know.
and I don't think he'd fancy drive or ferry drive. So that's John saying no. So an each star at
Yeah.
show. So that's that. But us doing
Yeah.
live shows? Are you kidding? We'd be took off air in no time.
Yeah, we would. Yeah,
If we
sued the
if we
shit.
could show you the edits, it'd be dead air. That'd
Yes.
be it. We wouldn't last a month if we did live shows.
No.
So Bert Doncaster, we like Bert. The last question.
Yeah.
He says, currently sunning my baldy head in Tenerife.
Mm.
Well, that's no,
Yes.
good old Bert, thinly veiled. Look at me. Where do the Barstewards go?
Yeah, show off.
Where do the Barstewards go for some winter sun, cheap beer, and absolutely no culture? Ugh, I ain't done one for ages. One of them.
We're doing that cruise, aren't we, next year?
Well, I'm open to anything, John. If you fancy something.
Well, you were on about it 2 months back. You said, what about a winter cruise while racing shit?
I'll be honest. Cruising is, for me, like as I've got older, it's the perfect break because you're weighted on hand and foot.
Bit of shuffleboard on the morning.
Huh?
Yeah. Kites, or whatever they call it.
You get to visit places you could never visit because
Mm.
you can't, because it's like you just won't go there because it's just like an island somewhere in it. I think the best way for people to get about, see things. They're not that expensive if you go for a cheaper cabin. No, not quite really.
On a Belgian Belgian factory trawler gutting herring in the North Atlantic. That's all we can
Blogger
afford,
does it,
isn't
doesn't he? Blogger does one at Christmas, I think.
Does he?
Yeah, or
Really?
last few years. Yeah, I'm sure he's been on these cruises round.
You have to be about 90 is a minimum age, isn't it?
If we're going to do it, we'd better make sure we're aged back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Not going to be on the same cruise, else it's going to be man overboard, isn't it? At some point.
Yeah, none of that shit.
I like the idea of a cruise. I like the idea of a cruise, but only one of those really posh ones, where you get a fella swindling old girls out of money on these
Exactly.
cruises.
Yeah, Leslie Phillips.
Quite nice. Yeah, Leslie Phillips. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah, Leslie Phillips. Yeah.
Right, we'll end it there. I think this showed it all today. We've given you some anti-post stuff that we like.
Yeah.
We've touched on every topic. We've not shirked anything. We've had a bit of fun. So we hope you enjoyed it. And we're back this time next week talking the same gibberish. And don't forget, it's the Cheltenham preview show after that, and you can get it first on Patreon. That's all from us. Bye for now.